On today's episode, we're answering the question, no, we're not, because I'm on the wrong damn outline. Yeah, I call it a spiral moment, right? Like, okay, I'm on the ledge, and if I go over, I'm going to spiral, and you pull me back. So it's funny, I actually didn't have a full spiral moment this time because we were so communicative about, especially the closer it got, the more we were in contact about it. Not that we're hashtag transparency, we're in contact a lot, but it's a lot of memes and jokes back and forth. I was talking to you more about my upcoming event the closer it got, and you were really adept at recognizing when that ledge was looming. But then also it was really nice to not have to worry about, like, okay, you told me you need to start promoting this day. Cool. You need to do this today. Cool. Like, it was really nice for you to say, this is where you are, and this is where you could be if you do this. So I need you to do this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And
nice
there's a difference there, because those are the moments when we get close to promo. So building out a summit can take 3 to 4 months. I like to take 4 to 5 months because I don't like it to take over your life. And Allison knows how much this took over her life and what it was able to do. I mean, she was, it wasn't overly overwhelming, but there were moments, right? So there's certain peaks and valleys in building out an event like this. There's the peaks, which are the happy moments, and the valleys, which can be the spiral moments or the trigger moments. And it's what happens at both that matter. But what happens more in the valleys is what can lead to the next peak, right? So if we spend a lot of time in that valley, if we experience a lot of frustration, then we're not going to move to the next thing. So I always, although I know Allison very, very well, this is something that's easily transferable to other people, where if there's something that's happening that's causing that confusion or that overwhelm or the valley, the spiral moment, whatever it is, getting the person back on track, if you catch it early, takes a lot less time than if you let them ruminate in it, and then you have a problem. So as an example, I talk to my clients once a week, but that doesn't mean I'm not there. So I notice things, and there's lots of little triggers that come up for different people. And we all, funny enough, a lot of people have the same sort of triggers that happen, and I can sort of see it coming, and people react similarly in certain situations. And I can go, oh, we're getting there. Something's, kind of happening. Some people go really, really quiet. I call that cubbying. Some people get really choppy with the way they talk, right? So they get short, and that means they're, feeling overwhelmed, and they're experiencing, like, I can't handle more than this. So I'm just going to answer you with the least amount of words as possible. Other people start getting incredibly verbose, and they actually start talking incredibly negative, and it can be very personal sometimes. And that's somebody who doesn't know how to express their emotions in a more linear fashion, in terms of, like, this doesn't relate to you as a person, this relates to the process, and I'm struggling. So I don't take any of this personally, but I've had to develop the skills. And early on, I didn't have those skills because I was, I'm a little bit of a bleeding heart, heart on my sleeve kind of person. And I would sort of take that personally. I would think it was personal, but I know that it's not. And you develop different mechanisms to dealing with people like that. And the goal is to get you as quickly and without as many valleys as possible to your success point. That's the end goal. So the question I want to ask you, Allison, is, 1, would you do it again? And then 2, if you did it again, would it be helpful to have somebody to help you produce the summit again? Or do you have it, you can do it, hands off, no worries?
1, I'm already planning on it. So be on the lookout for Coaching Conversion 22. 2, I wouldn't dream of doing it without support, to the point where not only do I want to make sure that I have you there as my producer, but also talk to you beforehand about who else might we need to add onto the team, or, how can we train up my VA? What needs to happen to actually give me more support? Because, like you said, it does take over your life a little bit. I did about 6 months of planning, and The closer you get, the more it takes over. That's normal. You told me that. I would like to be even more prepared next time. I feel that I came off, I was very, very prepared, you gave me an incredible timeline with deadlines that spaced it out. I'm doing some personal work to help me, be a little more on top of things when it comes to that sort of thing with lots of moving pieces. There's a reason I don't project manage things because the lots of moving pieces, I get overwhelmed. And you're talking about, the three different types of people. And I feel like I was those three different types of people all at the same time. So how can I get more support? What else could be either taken off my plate, managed better, done differently? And I know that that's strategy that we'll come up with in that planning period.
Agreed. Agreed. And Allison, give yourself a little bit more credit than that. You weren't a hot mess in any way, shape, or form before you even think that. You were actually one of the ideal people when it came to tasks, because if I said something was happening and I wanted you to do something, then I wanted you to, and you were like, yeah, sure, no problem, totally got it. And you would actually go and do the thing. So there was a lot here in the way that you were working, which is great. And the valleys that you did experience were quite normal, and that's okay. Those are growth opportunities, right? And when you're working with somebody who has some difficulties with the project management side, or perhaps some issues in terms of maybe they have ADHD, or they have different kinds of attention deficit, or they have any other neurological things that are happening with them, that has to be built in, right? So that's a real consideration. And that's not something that gets considered by somebody who's just going to be your implementer, right? They're not necessarily building that in. And when you work with somebody who produces an event, they have to understand that. So one of the first things I do on my first calls with my clients is I ask them, are you taking a vacation? Do you have, where are your kids at? Is your sister getting married? Are there anything in terms of the personality stuff? Like, tell me what your opportunities are. Tell me what your struggles are in terms of, project management or things like that. I ask those questions so that I can be more flexible. I realized early, because I was trying to get Allison to do this in about 4.5 months. And I realized, and she realized, which was great because we were able to adjust, that this was going to take a little bit longer for her because we were creating too much overwhelm. There was a lot going on. We were still in pandemic times. At times her son was home. There was a whole, thing where her son got exposed to a possible exposure to COVID at one point, and he was home for 2 weeks, and that really screwed up the timeline a little bit. There was a lot going on. So building in, I call them the whoopsies. So being flexible and malleable and having those whoopsie moments of going, okay, we need to adjust. And I'll say one other thing about this. There are coaching programs out there, and there are coaches out there that say, stay in the moment, stay on the step that you're in, book a date and don't change it. It's in concrete, don't move it, and they make you feel like you're the problem and that you're at a deficit for wanting to make the event more your own. And I will say that I don't like that. Allison is an incredible communicator, and she's really great at connecting with people. So I flat out told her, you're doing panels, right? You're going to communicate, you're going to have 10 or even 15 experts, and you're going to be doing these really cool panels. And I think we have to make those summits really intrinsically around the person and their personality.
I think too. So I moved, I moved my summit. I was originally going to have it in May of this year, and it just wrapped up a couple days ago. It's June. I moved it by just about 3 to 4 weeks, because I was able to look at myself and say, I'm overwhelmed. I'm retreating. I don't want to do this. It's too much. I need to move it. And Jenny and I talked about it, and I said, what do you think if I move it? And she said, okay. She got it. I mean, we had a conversation. It wasn't just, I'm moving the summit. Okay. It was a conversation about it. But by allowing that flexibility in the strategy from the get-go, I will fully say that it was a better event in June than it ever had the hope of being in May. Just flat out. That's just the way that extra month, I needed it. Not just for the actual time, but for the mindset of it. And the nice thing about someone who's not just producing or implementing, but who's coaching and strategizing and wrapping it all together is that you are seeing the whole person. You're not just seeing the summit host. I think that's really important. And, one of the things that you did that really meant a lot to me, and I know that it was both as a friend and as a client, if you will, was, about, pardon me, I don't know what's going on with my throat. I think I'm allergic to cicadas, but we've talked about my struggles with ADHD and the neurodivergent stuff that's been going on in my own head. And so you started researching it and you started following some people on Instagram that teach about it in adults, not children. And you did it in an effort to understand me more so that you could better help me, not just as a friend, which it's a very cool friend thing to do either way, but from the client side, it really made me feel seen and valid. And that is something I think that's really important to understand, is it's not just about, like, this is my first one. It's my second one, but the first one was so long ago it doesn't count. This is my first real summit that I've really done with this kind of effort and energy and intention behind it. And so it's a level up moment. It's a huge mental shift. There is, and you even warned me about the little bit of emotional letdown after, right? So like right now it's Saturday. My last day was Wednesday. I'm like, well, now what? Like, it's over. This has been 6 months of my life and it's over. And there's a little bit of a, well, crap process that I knew was coming, that I actively worked to mitigate because I knew it was so. Even just having the heads up of all of the emotional and mental stuff. And, I don't want to sit here and sound like, oh my gosh, this was a 6-month traumatic experience, but it is a big part of your life. It's a big part of your business. It's a big step, especially if it's one of your first. I will feel very prepared going into my next one because I've been through it, but I also know that it's still another step. So it's still going to bring up stuff. And to have someone on my side, even just to be a venting post for a minute now and then is a good thing as well. On today's
Oh my
episode,
gosh.
I'm telling you, that's how she does it.
on today's episode,